Great.
Hi, everybody. This is Shelley from the Hudson Area Public Library, and been on our Facebook page and calendar. You know, we had a lot of excitement about hosting Lorna Landvik, which would have been, I think, last Friday, May 3rd. We were going to do our happy hour with authors with Lorna, which is sponsored by our Friends of the Library group. And obviously we've had to cancel that. So Lorna is gracious to join us for a Zoom interview. And I just want to let everybody know that Chapter 2 on Locust Street, our amazing independent bookstore, has 20% off all of Lorna's titles while we're running this interview, which is very awesome. Great time to go and buy some Lorna books. Also, Chapter 2 is doing curbside, and there have been some recent changes allowing businesses to open. Just make sure you check their Facebook page, website, or give them a call to see if you can go in or if you just want to arrange an order over the phone. So, all right, Lorna, thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
I think I read on your Facebook page you are a relatively new grandmother. Is that right?
I am. I'm a grandmother. It pays to have your own daughter at age 16 and then have her daughter at 16. No, I am a new grandmother, and she's actually 15 months old now. And so motoring all over the place, and it's really fun. And I don't know, sorry, my dog doesn't know manners, Zoom manners. My daughter and I would joke when the baby was just a baby, like, oh, I wonder what she'll call you. And we started talking like this, and we said, well, maybe she'd call me Meemaw. Oh. And now it looks like I might be a Meemaw, which is totally Southern.
It's very Southern.
Yeah, but that's all right. I'll teach her to talk like this, and it'll be real good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really fun.
I love it. That's so fun.
Yeah.
And congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you.
So I'm excited to talk about Chronicles of a Radical Hag with recipes. It is such a great title. And so I wondered if you came up, first of all, with this title, if you come up with all your titles and if you've ever had to change them because of an editor's request.
I do come up with all my titles, and I have had some pushback on titles. I wanted to call originally Welcome to the Great Mysterious. I wanted to call it Hey Pal, because that was the greeting with which the boy Rich, who has Down syndrome, graciously and openly greets the world. Everything, hey pal. And my editor didn't like that. She said she thought it sounded too Irish. Hey pal, I know that really must have done Tiz a disservice. But so I changed it because I wasn't absolutely tied to the title. I liked it, but I thought, okay. And so in thinking of a new title, that actually opened up a whole new part of the book. So that was a good result of a title change. Angry Housewives Eating Bonbons, my editor didn't want. You'd think I'd know how to train that dog. Anybody who walks by, Pharaoh has to greet them. Angry Housewives Eating Bonbons, they wanted to call the whole wide world right here, because that was a sentiment that one of the housewives had sitting with the neighborhood children in her backyard. And I think it's a sentiment that a lot of mothers feel at times when you're watching your kids engaged and having fun, and you think, wow, this is the whole wide world right here. I liked it as a sentiment. I didn't like it as a title. And so I really pushed to have it. And so I got to keep it. And some booksellers said, oh, we love that title. And other booksellers said, oh, originally we were kind of leery of a book like that. And I've heard from readers both sides too. That's our mail delivery.
Dogs Zoom etiquette. That's all right.
He's such a good boy. He's just a little too vocal.
Yeah.
And so my books almost always come into my head with the title that winds up on the book. And that book, the title's often a clue. When Chronicles of a Radical Hag came into my head, I knew right away that it involved Hayes Evans. She also, shall I shut the door? Is that dog bothering you too much?
Sure, go for it. That's fine.
Okay, just have some coffee, people.
I'll just have a soda.
Yeah.
Literally. You never know what you're going to encounter on Zoom.
Okay, I don't know if that's going to help, but Hayes Evans is an octogenarian who's been writing a small town newspaper column since the 60s. So when this title and she came into my head, I thought, okay, I know where I'm going to start. That has always been the case with every book except Best to Laugh. And that book came into my head just because I wanted to sort of pay homage to my time in Hollywood when I was doing stand-up comedy. And so that's how that book came into being. But all the others, really, it's those titles coming into my head, accompanied by 2 or 3 of the main characters. And often the titles, like Your Oasis on Flame Lake, when that title came into my head, I had no idea what an oasis on Flame Lake was. But I thought, well, I'm going to find out. And then it turns out to be a nightclub a guy starts in his basement. So for me, the real fun of writing is just the discovery that, whoa, where are we going? What's going to happen? That's why I never like to write by an outline. And also why I could never write a mystery or a thriller, because you know who did it by page 2, you know.
Right. Keep reading, please. Yeah, it's over, but just stick with it.
Recipes in the book, I think that probably came a little later. But she's such a nice person, but she's also a person with opinions. But because she's a woman, some men think she's not worthy of holding her own opinions and, publishing them. And so to mollify one of her most severe critics, a guy named Mr. Joseph Snell, she decides to occasionally throw in a recipe, okay, put down, your boxing gloves, pick up some oven mitts, bake these almond crescent cookies. And so I did use some of my own recipes, some of my mother's recipes, and that was just really fun to put in the recipes that I've loved over the years.
Well, it's so interesting because you reveal her story, her character, through the columns. And I'm wondering, so you came up with the title, you get an idea of who the characters are going to be, but did that come to you immediately? Like, this would be a really unique approach to have these columns reflect so much of the character's journey?
I don't know if I'm that analytical. If I thought that, I knew it would be really interesting to see what she might have been writing about 50 years ago. And it was a real tromp back through history for me. I have a book called, I can't remember the title, but it lists throughout the years, you can look up 1948 and they have columns like science and technology, politics, arts and entertainment. You can see what was happening during that particular year. So I did use that book as well as my own memories to base what she wrote about. She writes about the anniversary of JFK's assassination. She writes about the Birmingham church bombing. There's just so much to write about. I had to pick and choose, and some people have asked me why I didn't write a lot about 9/11, and she does allude to that occasionally, but I just felt that's been so written about. And, I had to figure out, okay, where can I edit things and where can I not? And so I have her instead write a lot about the 1980 election, and her thoughts on that. And believe me, Joseph Snell had something to say about that column.
Oh, I bet. So as a reader, I really love, and a librarian, I love author events. But I can admit that sometimes they can be a little writerly and stiff. And you're so funny when you do your events. It's sort of
Are you saying I'm not writerly,
Yeah.
Shelley? That's what you're saying.
You don't have your
'Cause
pipe and your
I can try to be.
yeah. So I'm just wondering, like, were you the class clown, or did you have to sort of develop this persona over the course of your life and your writing career?
I always have enjoyed getting laughs. I I was up for class clown in high school. I was up for 3 things, I was told. I did win 1, but it wasn't class
Oh,
clown. Um, and um, I just have always liked people to have a good time. I was the youngest in my family, um, raised in a Norwegian Lutheran household, but my dad and my mom were very funny. My mom was a performer. I just had posted something about her group, the Morris Park Mother Singers. And man, these groups I just wish would reestablish themselves, because when my kids were in elementary school, if there were, a group called, you know, Erickson Mother Singers, I would have joined, because it's just so fun to get together with people and sing and perform. And my mother and her sister would drive in from Edina to direct the group. And it was just so much fun. I have no memory of your question. Oh yeah, it's about class clowns and making people laugh. So my mother, as a member of the Morris Park Mother Singers, she would always get the comic roles. She'd play a witch or the yellow bird in Trini Lopez's song. And I just found that it was very rewarding to be able to get people to smile or laugh. But I also like to really, as a reader, feel deeply about things. So my goal as a writer is to really write from a worldview where I generally do see things, I can find the humor in things, but I also know that life is full of great sadness and tragedy and challenges. So I try to write about that, but hoping that somewhere in the midst of all that, okay, let me laugh just as a breather. I find laughter is really a tonic, just like a gin and tonic. Actually, this is just bubbly water, people. It's only the afternoon.
and this is not rum and Coke, it's just Coke. So we're good. It seems to me, since Patty Jane's House of Curl came out, that in a way the job description for a writer is changed. I mean, that social, the online presence is so important, and social media. Now, I know you're on Facebook, but I didn't see you on Twitter. Do you do other social media?
No, and I struggle with this. And that I don't even like to use the word struggle, because that sounds so momentous. Oh, it was a struggle.
Right.
I mean, we're all struggling with this pandemic, but so what's my take? I guess I'm old fashioned. I did like the days when I could write a book and there would be professionals who would promote it, publicists and booksellers. And I was really raised. Have you ever heard of the word Janteloven?
Actually, no. I have to confess.
Well, good. I can school you. It's an actual word that describes the Scandinavian, and granted, my relatives came over, my grandparents and great grandparents. They weren't right off the boat, but it pervades this Janteloven. And a guy even wrote like a big pamphlet about how Scandinavians always think, oh, I'm no better than you, or oh no, you go first, or oh no, I don't want too much light shown on me. And so I really absorbed that. It's really hard for me to promote my stuff. I love having it bought. I love readers who, read my stuff, and but I just wish I didn't have to be the salesperson too. I'd rather just be the writer, and but I know I have to get better at it. So I do have a author Facebook page, but again, I'm not on it all the time. I mean, I should do it more, but no shoulds. Just that's where I'm at right now. Maybe I'll get better. Maybe somebody will contact me and say, hey, I'll do it all for you, and I'll say, great,
go for it, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm sure it's hard to come up with something interesting and insightful to say on a daily, weekly, whatever basis.
Right. And I like to write fiction, and a lot of writers will get very personal in their posts and write about their families. And, my own daughters have said, we don't care if you write about us, but I just feel that's their life. It's, I don't want to invade anyone's privacy.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Again, that's pretty Nordic sensibility, I guess.
Yeah.
I gotta get more Irish or something.
Take on the New York or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You work on the New York accent because you do the Scandinavian really, really well.
Hey, buy my book. What do you think you're doing? You buy my book, you like it. And then when you're done, you buy the next one.
Very Deniro.
Hey, you know what I'm reading lately that I'm having a lot of fun with?
What?
I am reading Chesapeake by James Michener.
Oh.
And, they're old-fashioned, they're huge, they're really big books. And I can't, as a reader, I love character-driven books, and I love to just get lost in that world. And I also love beautiful language, and when a writer, uses a metaphor that, wow, that exactly describes something. And I can't say that he's that kind of writer, but you learn so much about so many things. So I've been having a really good time reading Chesapeake, and my friend loaned me Hawaii, which I'll read after that, and so I'm having fun with that.
Well, I know, just being in touch with people from the library, that some are like, I'm having a hard time. I mean, reading is my go-to for fun and comfort, but with all this going on, there's just something in my brain that is making it hard to engage with books. And then of course other people are like, wow, I have all this time to read and it's awesome. But I wonder if it's the same for you as a writer. Like, how is the pandemic, is it turning off that part of your brain because there's a lot of stress and isolation, or are you just kicking it right now?
Well, I really didn't think the stay-at-home orders would affect me much, because I stay at home anyway to write, and I could go out for my much-needed walks at the dog park. And but I was really having a hard time writing, and I was really surprised and didn't know why. And then I read a commentary in the New York Times by a debut novelist. I can't remember her name, but she had just put out this book and had been planning, an exciting tour and all that comes with a debut novel that's really got publisher support. And then everything ended. So, but people were telling her, well, at least you can stay home and write. And she couldn't. And then she realized that she was grieving, not just grieving for what wasn't to be, but what might never be. And I just thought that I think I am in a low grade stage of grief, and not one that, I'm lamenting and sobbing and, oh, I can't get out of bed, but it's just that wondering, what is our beautiful world going to be like? And can we, I am also a performer, so I do a show at a
Yeah.
beautiful, fabulous theater, and it's very small. It only seats 80, but I think, what is the fate of places like that where people are, close together, for a night out of laughs? And that's when I get into trouble, when I just worry about the future.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to do that.
Right. And we're all living in the unknown. We don't know how long it's going to go
Right.
on. And that's stressful too. If somebody could say, well, August 1st, that's the turn on date,
Right.
it would help, but nobody can do that.
So I'm finding, I've always been a very poor sleeper since I was a kid, and have always fought insomnia. And they say don't read in bed, but I'm reading in bed, and I'm reading this big, huge book that takes me back to the 1600s, and it's been very exciting. And then in my daytime, I'm reading other books. And I would say that I'm getting back to writing a little more regularly. And, to escape in another world, which a book allows you to do, is very helpful in times like this. And I certainly understand the distraction, because I can, that's why I don't read books online, because I would constantly be checking news sites to see what was going on. And, I think that's one of the, another reason why I'm not on Twitter, or don't follow any Twitter or Instagram or anything, because it's just too much. I'd rather just keep up with the people in my life, with whom I can talk on the telephone or look straight in the eye. And I'm sure I miss things, but I'm sure I don't miss things,
So can you tell us about your work in progress, or are you one of those
No,
who
I
doesn't
cannot.
talk? Dang.
I don't tell anybody. I don't tell my husband. I don't tell
Wow.
my kids. I don't tell my friends, just because I I think when you talk about it, it just kind of lets things out, the mystery. And the way I write, so many things change while I'm writing, like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen, so I'll have to go back and change things. So because I do remember when I wrote Patty Jane's House of Curl, I joined, I took a class at the Loft, and this is when the Loft was in the bottom of a church, and not the big, wonderful open book edifice it's at now. I think I misused the word edifice, but that's okay. So our homework was to read 20 pages of other students' novel in progress, and then we'd come back and discuss that student's work, and it was really fun. And I had written about 150 pages, and so I did get back what I wanted. I wanted to hear that, people wanted to know what's going to happen next, because that, as a reader, is always what you want to know, is what's going to happen next. But then when I was writing what was initially supposed to be my third book, my editor asked to see the first 50 pages, even though she knew that the way I like to write was just to keep it all inside and then present the finished manuscript to her. So my third book would have been a book called Mayor of the Universe, which was about a mild-mannered actuary who wakes up to find his room filled with aliens. And that happened on about page 50. And I'll never forget my editor calling me. This was in the call days. And she said, Lorna, there seem to be some aliens on page 50. I said, I know, I can't believe it. I'm so excited to find out what's going to happen next. She said, no, we don't want you writing about aliens. So at that time, I didn't feel I had the wherewithal to fight my editor's wishes. So I put those 50 pages away. And for years, unbeknownst to me, they percolated. And I got back to that book and I finished that book because I really wanted to find out what happened next. But that, I guess, just solidified for me, don't share your work till it's all done, because it does change so much, and you want to present it the way you want to give the full gift, not just a couple pieces of the box of Legos. You want to give all the Legos at once.
That's a great metaphor. I have an author friend who says she loves her plot, loves her characters in her head. And then she's learned if she starts telling somebody, oh, this is the story, suddenly it starts to sound stupid in her head and it becomes sort of demoralizing to her. So she just keeps the conversation right here and will not talk to anybody else.
Yeah, because even if somebody might think they're being helpful or praiseworthy, anything that's said can make you, oh, maybe not. And it's your confidence and your belief that you can tell the story that keeps you on that propulsive forward motion. So, but I do know a lot of writers who love to share their work and they benefit highly from it. So I guess you just figure out what kind of writer you are, and whatever works.
So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a little bit about some of your interesting past experiences, because I wonder how...
I was innocent, I swear.
Well, how does a girl from East Grand Forks become a maid in Bavaria and a temp at the Playboy Mansion? I mean, these are like novel-like life experiences. Like you'd see.
Okay, actually, I was born in Grand Forks, but we lived on the Minnesota side in East Grand Forks, and then I grew up in Minneapolis. So my mother was from a North Dakota farm, and loved the fact that I had to be born in North Dakota, but I was raised totally in Minnesota. So, when my best friend, she moved to Burnsville when we were in 10th grade. And so she and I just kept up our wonderful friendship over the phone and decided that we didn't want to go right to college. We wanted to go to Europe for a year. So we worked in a plastic spoon and fork factory to pay our way to Europe. And I had $500 to last the year. I think she had about 550 because she was, from Burnsville. But our money ran out about the third month, but we were at the Hofbrauhaus in Munich for New Year's Eve. Great place to spend New Year's Eve. Bemoaning the fact that we were going to have to go back to America, and we wanted to spend a year, and they said, well, you should go to Garmisch-Partenkirchen, they've got American army base hotel, perhaps you could find work there. And so we went there, but there was no help, no positions available at the U.S. Army base hotel. But we were wandering down Bahnhofstrasse and walked into this really cute little hotel called the Roter Hahn, and their maid from Turkey was just quitting, so we got hired there. And then we got paid in Deutschmarks, which at that time was a pretty good currency, and so we were able to spend the year there.
Great. And
then that same friend and I did stand-up comedy together, and we both dropped out of the U to get in her little Mustang and drive to San Francisco to start our fabulously unsuccessful comedy partnership. But we had a lot of fun, and eventually I wound up in LA performing comedy, because I've always loved comedy and acting. And I would write, short fiction because I didn't think I had the wherewithal to write that which I really wanted to write, which were novels. So not making a living acting or writing, I temped. And to temp in LA is really fun. I tempted CBS Records, Paramount. I temped all over. And then one day my temp agent called and said I had a temp job at the Playboy Mansion. And I resisted because I was and still am a feminist. And she insisted it was strictly clerical. So I wound up there, I don't know, maybe 5 months or so, working on the 3rd floor in Hugh Hefner's video room, because he would videotape everything, you know, from a playmate getting an interview for opening a, you know, grocery store, for cutting the ribbon. Everything was documented. And then it led to a really fun job where I watched the many old movies he had put on tape, and then I'd write little synopses for them. So it was really weird, but interesting, and they treated their employees really well. We got free breakfast, you know, when we came, we could order from the chefs. We got free lunch, leftovers from the party he would throw every night. And I think they treated their employees so well, so you kind of would forget where you were, you know.
Yeah. Did you interact with him personally?
I only met him twice, and just walking down the halls. And I remember just, you know, trying to evaporate into the walls. I just did not want to see him. And he was wearing his robe and did have a bottle of Pepsi in his hand. He said hello, but nothing like, "Oh, I can tell you're Miss March." You know, it was very clear I was there just to temp. But I made a really good friend there. She worked in his office, so she saw a lot of stuff. But she and I were invited to, all the employees were invited to the Halloween party, which was wild, you know.
I bet.
I gotta take a drink after that.
Yeah. Well, I have one final question. I want to know how people can still get to see Oh My Stars, because it was a short indie film.
Oh, thank you for asking. Oh My Stars. You'll hear that song. We made a little movie of Oh My Stars, in the hopes that it's called a proof of concept, which is something kind of new. People are making little short trailers or little short movies, hoping to arouse Hollywood attention, and either a star or a director or producer seeing it and thinking, yeah, I want to do that. So I believe you can go to the Oh My Stars Facebook page and watch it. It's I think 22-minute movie, and my good friend Wendy Smith did the music, and she and I wrote the song Oh My Stars together. So that was really fun. Yeah, and it's really it just gives you a sample of, you know, what the whole movie could be. And I would love if that would happen. And I would love if movie theaters can open again safely, and because I love the movies and, you know, live theater too. And but I'm just gonna follow the experts and do what they say, and hope that everybody does and stays safe and healthy. And one day we'll all have a real happy hour with real booze and none of this, you know, lime soda water.
And no better place than after hours at the library, I say.
Exactly. And leave it to the friends at the library in Hudson to think, yeah, we need a happy hour.
Yes.
Put on.
Awesome group. So
yeah.
Well, I really thank you for your time. This was so much fun for me. And
you're welcome, Shelley.
Our patrons are going to love it. And don't forget, everybody, that chapter 2 has 20% off of all of Lorna's books. So you can reach out to them. Yes, including the new one. And yeah, I wish you well. And I look forward to seeing you when life is a little bit more normal.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. And everybody keep reading and stay safe, and bake a little too. That's helpful.
we'll bake
Yeah.
we'll take a recipe from you. So,
All right.
okay.
You won't regret it.